Now you're alive. It is time to come clean. Know when it's too late for you to try and do anything to salvage the relationship you have with your children.
Father, it's like you're not getting it. I tell them something like this and I lose them for the rest of my life.
Perhaps. Or you just might be able to start afresh. Sometimes, humans are capable of extraordinary love.
Oh, thank you, Father.
Chichi. Chinwe.
Majid.
Alpha.
I'm fine. How you doing?
I did.
I'm the think so you no go show.
Huh? Why is I no show?
I don't know. Why you go show?
I be showmanship now. Why no? I dey show everywhere now. Why no show you?
See, whatever your motive is, let me just let you know now. I get gone for bag and I sabi use them.
Chinwe, you won't kill me. Chinwe, my name is Majid and I only be driver for the this one years old. I'm driver, I not be investigator. I not be assassin. And I won't help you, Chinwe. I won't help you. And I'll tell you what I feel no. Master never did out since week.
Where is he now?
I don't know. Man, no lie.
You don't know.
I don't know.
You don't know where Maxwell day.
I don't know where Maxwell day.
What did you now bring me out for? What use are you then to me?
Chinwe, calm down. You know, say, as much as I be Google. I'll find them. But please, I want you to help me do something. No reach that location, our house. No reach there. I beg. I just go to beg you. We'll find who kill your brother. If not Maxwell kill him, we'll find.
Now Maxwell kill him. Now Maxwell kill him. Now Maxwell kill nephew. Maxwell killed my brother.
Hey, if not Maxwell kill him, if not Maxwell kill nephew, we'll bring him to justice. Now what happen with that? Now what we'll do? Don't they shout for me like say I don't do anything now. I don't do anything.
We'll bring him to justice.
We'll bring him to justice. We'll bring everybody to justice.
What if they can't catch you?
They catch me? Me? Catch me? Worse, what go happen? Say I die. I will die. Not if I die. And not if we say me person die for justice. Chiwe, I die. Justice, I die. I'll die. I know they fear death. I die.
Okay. Thank you.
Wait. Don't take me here too. You go and see your bag.
I go close my bag now. No.
God no day, Gabi. Remember what I talk. I will die for justice. Not you will kill me. Yeah? Thank you.
If there is something you're trying to get to, can you get right to it?
I crippled your father.
Baby, truly, in your arms is the key to my heart. Please believe me completely that I'm breathing to the beat of your heart. So if it's me you're searching for, I'm yours forevermore. Let me love you more, always. You were all I needed more. Open up the door, conquered me.
To report by uploading first-hand information on the U-Report link, and be the first to know by simply clicking on any of the links on the sidebar for headlines, domestic and foreign news, economy, security, politics, sports, and more. Stream live on your smartphone and tablets and stay connected. It's pretty easy. Simply download NTA News app from your Google Play Store and you're good to go. NTA News mobile app, your access to real-time information.
Imagine a station where you access information. Think of a station that creates awareness for national development. Imagine a station that prepares you for a bright and greater future. A station for all ages. Documentaries, classroom and television, events coverage, children's programs and variety shows. Always stay tuned to NTA Knowledge on the Star Times platform, channel 359. For partnership, sponsorship and advert placements, contact us on NTA Knowledge. NTA Knowledge, learning to broaden horizon.
Dab. Yes. One day as I did dab, they go. Now I see my neighbor on top electric pole. Don't be hammer you hold so.
Before, so
Climb every day. Come on, electric bill. You not gree pay.
waiting concern you for there. I beg you, come over here.
Okay, oh. I don't talk my own. As I dab reach house. Yay! Fire! Fire! My brand new flat screen.
Hold up.
Hello. Urbanization is a growing phenomenon, and so is the consequent waste generation and its management. And this is where we anchor tonight's edition of the program. Good evening and welcome. One of the major environmental challenges confronting urban cities in Nigeria is solid waste management. This is despite plethora of policies and regulatory measures by state government authorities to put in place sustainable municipal waste collection and disposable method. Worthy of note is the fact that most Nigerian cities are inundated with slums, prompting increasing urban population and consequent generation of huge amount of solid wastes. The problem is becoming intractable as it is proving more difficult for many cities to cope with urbanization, pollution, and concomitant generation of huge garbage, apparently due to lifestyles and consumption patterns. Where waste collection is exclusive, we still record less than 50% efficiency in waste management, with exception of Lagos, Calabar, and possibly Abuja. Now, some observers believe that the core of the challenge are absence of inadequate policies and implementation, enabling legislation and environmentally stimulated society. Now, application of technology in solid waste management has been adopted in states like Lagos, Calabar, and perhaps a few others, where recycling plants have been established to convert wastes to products, targeting paper, plastics, electronic equipment, metals, and glass. But there is more to waste than the few just mentioned. Now, is there any gap between policy formulation, execution, and implementation which exacerbates the challenges of solid waste management in cities in Nigeria? Answer to this and many more questions will be sought from experts as we begin another edition of Weekend File. My name is Kirian Umayo. Let's do it again. The news is first. Now, an extraordinary session of the Conference of Heads of State and Government of the Community of Sahel-Saharan States has ended in N'Djamena, Chad, with adoption of a revised treaty as well as a declaration on peace, security, and stability in the region. During the event, President Muhammadu Buhari made a case for wider cooperation amongst member countries towards checking the illegal flow of small arms into the hands of militia forces, bandits, and insurgents, now threatening human rights and internal security in Nigeria. State House correspondent Adam Sambo has that report.
Issues relating to peace, security, stability, and sustainable development dominated discussions at the conference, holding for the first time in 6 years under the chairmanship of the Chadian leader, President Idris Deby. President Muhammadu Buhari, who was amongst the heads of state and government of the community of Sahel-Saharan states in attendance, worked closely with immediate neighbors in the last few years to stem the widespread availability of small arms and light weapons making their way into Nigeria. He told the leaders present during the closed session that recent developments have been very disturbing and therefore the urgent need for support from a wider cycle of countries towards curtailing the dangerous trend. And in view of the significance of SENSAD, as the organization is called, and the role it can play in furthering domestic security, President Buhari ordered the reinvigoration of Nigeria's interest and approved the payment of the backlog of unpaid funds.
We have to pay tribute to the President for attending this conference, fundamentally because they are adopting a very holistic approach towards addressing the core challenges of the insecurity bedeviling the region. We believe that in the not too distant future, Boko Haram, they will be consigned to the dustbin of history.
And I actually congratulate the head of states for taking it as a matter of priority to look at the security of the region. It's important, very, very important. And I'm happy that I've been part of it.
Clearly, Nigeria's presence is very important for SENSAD to really make the kind of impact that it wants to make. The organization was dying somewhat.
Highlights of the extraordinary conference includes the issuance of a 14-point resolution, adoption of a revised treaty, and a declaration committing member countries to peace and stability, as well as helping each other and cooperating in all fields in the context of solidarity and brotherhood. They also resolved to prevent the use of their territories for activities directed against the sovereign and territorial integrity of states of the community.
The organization had been more oriented towards an economic community and greater integration, but now they want to focus on security and sustainable development, because those are the areas of real challenge for the region.
The challenges within the Sahel-Sahara region in terms of security is enormous, particularly of cross-border issues, the issue of proliferation of small arms and light weapons, smuggling of drugs, and also terrorism. So coming together, all these countries involved, I think 29 member countries, it's very important, particularly at this time.
The Multinational Joint Task Force is working at the Lake Chad region. When we have the Sahel-Saharan state, the G5, with the combination of the two, we will have a real impact in the fighting of insurgency across our nation.
In the meantime, the conference has resolved to temporarily relocate the headquarters of the community from Libya to Chad due to security concerns, as well as the registration of its revised treaty with the United Nations and the African Union Commission. President Buhari has since returned to Abuja. Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
And President Muhammadu Buhari reminds parents of kidnapped Chibok schoolgirls in Borno State that he has still not forgotten their daughters who were kidnapped from their dormitory 5 years ago, precisely on April the 14th, 2014. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Buhari promised the parents when he met them at the beginning of his first term that he would bring their daughters back home. Although the government has so far succeeded in bringing back 107 of the girls, President Buhari says he will not rest until the remaining girls are reunited with their families, as diverse efforts are being intensified to source their release from Boko Haram captivity, including Leah Sharibu, who was also kidnapped from her school in Dapchi, Yobe State on February 19, 2018. On Leah Sharibu's abduction, the interlocutors have reported encouraging progress, which indicates that she will be soon reunited with her family. President Buhari also sent special greetings to the 106 girls sponsored by the Nigerian government to continue their studies at the American University of Nigeria, Yola, encouraging them to stay focused on becoming women who will inspire girls in Nigeria and around the world. Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, has told global investors who attended the 2019 World Bank and IMF Spring Meeting in Washington, D.C., that Nigeria is ready for business as it has improved significantly in the ease of doing business environment. At the Corporate Council on Africa, the minister said Nigeria is driving reforms in several sectors which will potentially impact private investors positively. She also spoke on government's cash management strategy.
We must make sure that we don't exceed our borrowing capacities because the risks are very high. For us in Nigeria, we're still very much within our borrowing limits. As you know, today our total debt is 19.1% of our GDP. Our fiscal responsibility commitment is not to exceed 25% of our GDP, so we still have headroom. What we're doing is to increase our revenue generating capacity to ease the burden on debt service and also to improve our expenditure outlays. But in terms of the implementation of the ERGP, I hope in the next 4 years that we will be able to give ministers, heads of agencies, key targets and also hold them responsible for the delivery of those targets.
The Minister of Finance, along with the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, have been meeting with investors at the annual engagement to market investment potential across sectors of the Nigerian economy. And still from Washington, international economists have listed Nigeria as one of the key countries among emerging markets that will drive global growth from the third quarter of 2019. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, made the revelation during a side event for investors at the 2019 spring meetings. Vivian Idepefo reports.
A delighted Emefiele who took his time to share some of the positive vibes from the closed sessions of central bank governors, ministers of finance and international collaborators, disclosed that more than $5 billion have flowed back into the country, contrary to what obtained in previous election years.
The central bank and the federal government are open to foreign investors who are keen to support our efforts at unlocking the immense opportunities in our economy, knowing that it offers mutual gains to both the investors as well as Nigeria.
Intervention strategies such as the introduction of demand and supply management, as well as development finance, which increased lending to the SMEs, no doubt have improved the wealth of the rural communities and drastically reduced the 1.3 trillion naira annual import bill.
We will continue to do what we're doing, but at the same time, we still keep our eyes on the ball to see we will continue to focus on the priority sectors of the economy.
And I believe we will sustain the progress going forward.
The governor assures investors that their investments will be duly protected by the authorities. In Washington, D.C., Vivian Idepefo, NTA News.
And back home, there are indications that Nigeria will soon achieve sustainable production in the importation or reduction in the importation of petroleum products into the country. This is because the nation has begun rehabilitation of the refineries in Kaduna, Port Harcourt, and Warri. Amechi Pius reports that this was disclosed by the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, at the ongoing Enugu International Trade Fair.
The Group Managing Director of the NNPC Dr. Mekanti Barrow's message to visitors at the fair was presented by the Chief Operating Officer, Refineries and Petrochemicals of the corporation. It was anchored on the corporation's renewed drive for value addition in its operations, which he explained informed the commitment to revamp the refineries for optimal production and delivery of petroleum products.
Well, we actually are revitalizing our pipelines and depots across the country. That's the solution to ensure that you can get products inland without having everybody going to Lagos. So as we speak, like I mentioned, over 55 depots in the country are actually working and actual. From Port Harcourt Refinery, for example, we pump directly to Aba. From Aba, they pump elsewhere. So that's the solution. NNPC is focused on ensuring that the pipelines and depots are working actively.
He told guests at the corporation's special day at the Enugu International Trade Fair that the NNPC will begin the 210,000 barrel per stream Port Harcourt refinery. The Chief Operating Officer also announced plans by the NNPC to boost domestic and industrial gas consumption under its gas master plan. To make the Easter celebration pleasurable, he noted that the corporation has more than enough petroleum products at its 55 depots across the country and cautioned depot owners selling petrol above their official regulated pump price to desist from that illegal act.
And our role is to ensure that we can do what you just mentioned, which is to ensure that we get petroleum products across the country as effectively as possible and maintain at 145.
Very integrated, very organized, and very impressive. I would say they should keep it up.
High point of the event was the exchange of gifts between officials of the NNPC and ESIMA in Enugu. Mechi Pius, NTA News.
The Southeast youth leaders of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and other youth stakeholders in the zone have commended President Muhammadu Buhari and his wife Aisha for their efforts towards giving the youths their rightful position in the nation's polity. The youths gave the commendation at a meeting held in Awka, the Anambra State capital. Chinyere Fesi Okoye was there for us.
Rising from a closed-door meeting aimed at charting the way forward for APC, the Southeast Zonal leader, Mr. Odu Olisemeka Onyeka, on behalf of the youths, congratulates the president on his re-election, calling on the party leadership to ensure that there is reward mechanism for party loyalists. The meeting resolved to consult aggrieved stakeholders of the party for possible reconciliation.
Politics is a game of numbers. We need the numbers to ensure that we get what we want in future.
The meeting also reiterated the need for equity and fairness in zoning presiding officers at the National Assembly.
Ensure that every organ of the party is consulted before that is done. And when we talk of organs, we equally include the youth organ.
The Southeast youth leaders used the medium to thank President Buhari for the ongoing federal projects in the Southeast and appealed for speedy completion of the jobs. In Awka, Chinyere Fesi Okoye, NTA News.
Chairman, Presidential Committee on the Elimination of Drug Abuse, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, has charged Nigerians to support President Muhammadu Buhari in his quest to end drug abuse in Nigeria. Joy Ken Ababoya has the report.
Premier Medical Warehouse. The facility is where life-saving public health commodities, especially narcotic medicines, are stored for onward distribution to health facilities across the country. The Presidential Advocacy Committee for the Elimination of Drug Abuse team visited the facility to see firsthand the processes of receiving and dispensing these controlled medicines across the country. This is following information that narcotic medicines find their way illegally into the hands of drug abusers.
We want to determine if there are these type of leakages, what are the ways to block them? Because we are on the drug abuse call, and we want to limit the supply of these substances illegally.
The team assessed ledgers and other documents and were taken around the storage facilities.
And we have been properly educated today. We've seen the records, how they are kept. We are quite satisfied with the process.
One of the issues raised by the management of the central stores is the lack of a drug revolving fund, which they say is responsible for the current lack of Schedule 1 narcotic medicines important for the treatment of trauma, HIV, and cancer patients. In Lagos, Joy Ken Abapuya, NTA News.
The federal government is committed to resolving the problems and hardships caused by insurgency in the Northeast. The reassurance came from the Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative during its strategic session on the Mambila 3,050 megawatts hydroelectric power project's local content working group in Abuja. Timothy Yusuf reports.
The Federal Executive Council on the 30th of August 2017 approved the construction of the 3,050 megawatts Mambila hydroelectric power project in order to chart a course for the development of the Northeast. The project's contract provides for 70% foreign procurement and 30% local content. This meeting in Abuja is towards ensuring that the project takes off on a sound footing, with special reference to the 30% local content.
We are making sure that every available resource at the disposal of the government and at the disposal of the Northeast is made available to the completion of this project. So it is entirely feasible for the project to go a long way within the administration of Muhammadu Buhari.
Local content aspect of the project is guided by the executive order of Mr. President, Executive Order number 5.
The realization of the Mambila project, according to members of the working group, will restore development to the Northeast zone where socio-economic activities were retarded as a result of insurgency.
The present administration is committed towards realization of Mambila Hydro, and you know the project is critical to the economy of this country.
This working group is also expected to fine-tune the Presidential Committee on Northeast Initiative's tabs of references for the approval of the group. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
The internally displaced persons at the Zungeru permanent camp have appealed to the federal government for urgent payment of compensation meant for structures to enable them build permanent accommodation at the designated sites, as the camp is not conducive for living. Mukhtar Abubakar Uwowo reports that the appeal was made during the visit of the federal government subcommittee on distribution of relief materials to orphanages and IDPs nationwide.
The internally displaced persons in Zungeru are victims of last year's flooding, whom, after staying in a temporary camp at the Central Primary School Zungeru, were moved to a permanent camp built by the National Emergency Management Agency about 3 months ago. The IDPs decried their living condition at the camp as 2 households share a tent. They expressed worry over the next rainy season.
We need the federal government to give us our compensating money to start building our house because of rainy season.
Meanwhile, the federal government subcommittee on distribution of relief materials to orphanages and IDPs nationwide has visited them for identification and verification. The subcommittee has also visited the Niger State Orphanage as well as the home of the physically challenged persons for further distribution of relief materials.
There are so many quantum of rice all over our warehouses nationwide. In order not for these items to go bad, the federal government decided that these items should be given to the needy.
The relief materials expected to be distributed include rice, clothing, and other food items seized by the Nigeria Customs Service. In Mina, Mukhtar Abubakar, NTA News.
On a sad note from Gombe State, Fatia Awal Abba reports that an unconfirmed number of people have died following a petroleum tanker explosion earlier today, while many others have been injured.
The petrol tanker explosion, which occurred along Gombe-Maiduguri bypass road around 12 noon, was due to brake failure. The tank burst shortly after falling under the bridge, thereby disengaging its contents and spread fire to nearby houses. An eyewitness said the tanker driver was on his way to upload petrol to a filling station in Gombe Metropolis when he suddenly lost brake and lost control, thereby crushing motorbikes, tricycles, and people along the roadside.
When the accident happened is kill people very too much. So when this accident happened, I'm here, I'm looking at my eyes, people that died too much. some that is children, some that is, have small pickings in their hands.
Those who sustained injury were rushed to Federal Teaching Hospital, Gombe, for medical attention. In Gombe, Fatia Awal Abba, NTA News.
Nigeria's former president of Court of Appeal and the Galadima Katsina district head of Malumfashi, Justice Maman Nasir, is dead. He died at the Federal Medical Center, Katsina, after a protracted illness. He survived by 3 wives, 13 children, many grandchildren, including Nasir, Justice Nairo Nasir, and Abdulkadir Nasir and Daja, a one-time National Assembly member. He was buried at Malumfashi, Katsina State, with hundreds of relations and associates in attendance. Now, and the late Justice Maman Nasir is associated with a humble personality. Ruth Aguele gives us more insight into the personality of the late president of the Court of Appeal.
The main reason I want to talk is to talk for you. If you look at yourselves here, we form a reasonable representation of Nigerians. If you despise yourself, we don't say that I say it for you. So we have a duty and the honor to accept the responsibility given to us. It's a very serious and important responsibility that we help build our great nation. If you think you come here to destroy your future, you are making a terrible mistake. Tomorrow is for the Almighty.
A sad loss to the nation. A man who has left an indelible mark. One-time president of the Court of Appeal and district head of Malumfashi in Katsina State, Justice Maman Nasir died this afternoon at the Federal Medical Center, Katsina, after a protracted illness. Justice Nasir was born in 1929 and attended Kaduna College, where he obtained the West African School Certificate in 1947, and later attended the University of Ibadan, where he obtained a certificate in Latin. He proceeded to the Council of Legal Education in London for his bachelor's degree in law in 1956 and was called to English Bar that same year. On his return to Nigeria, he was appointed a Crown Counsel in 1956, and in 1961, he was appointed as Minister of Justice, Northern Nigeria, a position he held for 5 years before he became the Director of Public Prosecution, Northern Region in 1967. The same year, he was appointed Solicitor General, North Central. Late Justice Nasir held the position for 7 years before he was appointed to the bench of the Supreme Court of Nigeria in 1975. And in 1978, he was appointed President, Court of Appeal. He held the position for another 7 years until his retirement in 1992, to ascend the throne of Galadima of Katsina, and was stubborn on May 9, 1992. No doubt, the late Justice Nasir has left a great legacy that he would be remembered for, especially for his selfless service to humanity and the nation at large. May his gentle soul rest in peace. In Abuja, Ruth Aguela, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has described the death of the former president of the Court of Appeal, Justice Maman Nasir, as not only a loss to the judiciary, but the country at large. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says the late Justice Nasir belonged to a generation of judges and justices who perceived public office as an opportunity to offer selfless service to the country and its people. President Buhari described the late justice as a man who lived a modest life, who was incredibly humble, honest and patriotic. According to the president, Justice Nasir was selfless during his years of service as he built a solid and impeccable record of integrity, which is the greatest asset any individual should leave behind. The president has directed that a government delegation be sent to condole with the family, government and people of Katsina State for the loss of this illustrious member of the Katsina Emirate Council. And you are watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. It is a fact that improper collection and disposal of solid waste can spell environmental catastrophe. Tonight, we deliberate on urban cities and the challenges of waste management. We'll be right back.
Marketing of broadcast media products requires special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College Jos is therefore organizing an intensive 3-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. The course will equip participants with necessary skills to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competition in the broadcast media. It is an essential course for marketers in the broadcast media to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities. Date, 23rd April to 10th May 2019. Venue, NTA Television College, Refuge, Jos. Course fee, 100,000 Naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Well, we thank you for staying with us. Now, to our correspondence report. From Abuja, like other parts of the country, Abuja, the city center, has had its own fair share of challenges associated with unhygienic environmental practices. In this report, Hakimat Aliyu takes us through some of these emerging environmental challenges in the Federal Capital Territory and how relevant authorities are responding.
World. The demographic movement of people to Abuja, alongside many industrial and commercial activities, accounts for huge tons of waste generation, with the central dump site recording a rise from 151,232.6 tons in 2010 to 244,743.94 tons in 2018.
The city has been planned for not quite the size that we have been seeing for now. The batches and that they have been creating all over the city, all those that are coming are now settling in where they are not supposed to be, and then that leads to open defecation, urination, sleeping on the streets.
It was also observed that the interaction of people with their immediate environment, such as felling of trees, bush burning, indiscriminate dumping of refuse, all have serious implications on the landscape, environmental aesthetics, and atmospheric well-being, among which is the removal of vegetation cover, causing high temperature as lately experienced in the nation's capital city.
Vegetation covers are being removed by people who are looking for land for farming, people who are also exploiting the natural forest, for timber.
However, to address the emerging environmental challenges in the Federal Capital Territory, the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, AEPB, in January 2019, commenced the review of its Act No. 10 of 1997 for a cleaner and sustainable environment. In Abuja, Hakimat Aliu, NTA News.
And from Abuja to Lagos, the center of excellence, which is reputed to generate over 13,000 tons of waste per day. However, high commercial and other human activities increase this daily pile-up in the metropolis, spilling over to the marine. Jennifer Igwe reports that in spite of strategies to manage the endless stream of solid waste in Lagos, heaps of refuse and indiscriminate disposal keep increasing.
In the 1990s, Lagos had an ugly reputation for being one of the dirtiest cities in Africa as a result of refuse dumps that literally lined most roadsides, highways, and neighborhoods. From 1999, the state government adopted a holistic approach to waste management that changed the dingy status quo of the state. Private sector participation, PSP, and regulations by the Lagos State Waste Management Authority helped in the door-to-door collection of waste for a fee. The state government subsidized payment for very low-income areas. The strides the megacity achieved in waste management suffered a setback when it shifted from its PSP door-to-door waste collection, the use of its transfer loading station that reduced waste transfer time to dump sites, and the regulatory role of Waste Management Agency.
The state government has a reason to have a rethink being reviewed to allow Loma take charge of his role of the regulatory agency and also to allow the social investors, which are the PSP, to actually continue their own role as household waste collectors.
Experts say a majority of waste materials in Lagos are plastics that are non-biodegradable and most times clog drainage channels and subsequently end up in the lagoon, seas and ocean.
Fish, they could bioaccumulate in the body of the fish, and these are the things we also feed on, which could lead to all kinds of these.
Waste to wealth programs by the state government and others in the private sector are helping to recycle waste.
Bottles that we have, the covers are used as much as when we crush them to produce pallets, they now end up becoming things like packers, dustbins, even the hangers that we are using in our homes.
The state is out to create more social investments that will turn waste to wealth. In Lagos, Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
Thank you, Jennifer. There is no gainsaying the fact that solid waste management is the most pressing environmental challenge that urban and rural areas in Nigeria are faced with. Ijoma Ugoke hints at a peculiar environmental challenge in Enugu State and response to them.
This issue is being compounded by increasing human and vehicle activities in the state, as well as the fact that the agency saddled with the responsibility, ESWAMA, has not improved on the existing platforms and methods to evacuate and collect waste.
The cities in Nigeria has what is called sanitary landfill system, whereby all the waste that are generated by different households and institutional development and multiple agencies are aggregated and carted away to these dump sites where resource can be recycled. But what you see is an enlarged dump site whereby you aggregate both degradable and non-degradable.
It's giving us a very serious concern that the citizens or people residing in Enugu are not complying with the practice that is ongoing. For example, we have one. We experience from time to time non-bagging of refuse, because here in Enugu we have this practice of you have to bag your refuse from your household or from the source of generation of the solid waste, bag them properly, take them to the nearest dumpster. From that point, our trucks goes there to collect them.
It has been also of waste to wealth which every state is expected to key into. The idea to provide machinery that will help crush the waste and convert to other use. But those machines, experts say, are not on ground in Enugu State.
Plastic industries make use of broken plastics. Bottle industry make use of bottle disting, and as well as metal industries make use of scrap metals for recycling. You see absolutely that even if 80% of waste are generated in the city to the dump site, that 80% goes back into agricultural production as well as into other secondary industries for as semi-raw materials.
They, however, advocated organized and systemic dumping and channeling of waste to ensure disposal with attention to accepted public health and environmental safeguards. In Enugu, Ijomu Gweke, NTA News.
And Kaduna is next on our lineup. Converting solid waste to wealth is a major, and how they are addressing the challenge is what Ibrahim Bello Gunda tells us in this package.
Waste generation and disposal are recurring features in residential neighborhoods, markets, school premises, business areas, and cities. In Kaduna State, the government is collaborating with environmental agencies to evacuate solid waste to designated dump sites, clean up the streets, and seal drainages to ensure safe and conducive environment. The major obstacle to the initiative, however, is the poor attitude of waste generators towards disposal.
So what they should do is to be mindful of their environment, taking all the waste to the designated places meant for dumping of refuse. Especially along the major street, we have receptacles that people are expected to be dumping their waste. And indiscriminate dumping of waste is unacceptable.
Environmental experts observe that though Kaduna State is doing well in terms of evacuation of refuse, there is the need to do more, especially in turning solid waste to wealth.
So the waste shouldn't be put in together. It should be separated and be segregated. So as for Kaduna State, it will create employment for the state, and it will fetch something to what that will boost the economy of the state as a whole.
Suleiman Zubairu noted that it is very important to sensitize the public on the numerous advantages of keeping their environment free of trash, especially polythene bags that are non-biodegradable, which can lead to flooding in addition to applying sanctions to violators of environmental laws. In Kaduna, Ibrahim Bello Gunda, NTA News.
All right, you're still watching Weekend File on the network service of the NTA. We would like to thank our correspondents for their input. So when we return, presently, we'll engage our guest, who happens to be Adeolu Odushote, an environmental engineer, who will be with me in just a moment. Stay with us.
Jennifer, don't tell me you're still looking for chapters for your expo.
What expo? I'm reading to pass.
Yeah, right.
I beg, we all know even if you study, the surest way to graduate in this school is to do a rejo.
Or better still, we hook the lecturers, Abby.
No, that's a thing of the past. I would not get a certificate I cannot defend. I would not be a burden to the nation or the society by fixing or buying certificates that does not add value to my life. This is the era of change, and change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
You can follow us on all our social media platforms: Facebook at NTA Network News, Instagram at NTA Network, Twitter at NTA News Now, YouTube at NTA News Online. Or visit www.nta.ng. For live streaming, visit www.nta.ng/live. Now, you can stay updated on the go, be it on your TV, iPhone, laptop, or iPad, or download the NTA mobile application from your Play Store or App Store. NTA, you can beat the rich.
And with me now is Engineer Adeolu. The level of pause I've been commending over the years for tackling this menace. It does seem that the solid waste management is overwhelming the city. You know, what's your take on what you've watched so far?
You'd remember for the report from Lagos, reference was made to 1999 when the public sector participation started. And then somewhere along the line, rather recently, it turned out that that process kind of got put in the back burner and something else was being tried, which is looking like it's not really working. Matter says cannot be created or destroyed. It could be manufactured, it could be moved around, but understanding it makes it clear that you don't wake up one day and it looks like a spirit or something just drop materials on the streets. They must have been put there by people. They must have been moved there by some human influence. And they're not destroyed also. They must be moved by some planned program that ensures that, you know, the management of waste is really done properly. PSP, as it was called at that time, is one good example of trying to grapple with how materials that eventually are called wastes get generated and get disposed. If you truncate somewhere along the line the continuity of the flow of the material, you have a problem because the things will not move themselves away. And that is the kind of thing that we learn from in the Lagos experience that also tells us about how generally people should think about what they are doing to create that backlog, as it were, that is stopping what should be the flow of material, started as a generated waste to the point where it's properly disposed.
Now, waste management is completely under the purview of state governments because we're talking about cities in Nigeria. And one wonders, you know, if this has become so overwhelming that it cannot be tackled. No one state can, boast of, efficiency in solid waste management. Are there budgetary provisions, allocations for this kind of project in states? I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking that if this is a sector where a government, makes provision for annually, that definitely will.
Ministry of Environment. And for each one, there's a program about policy towards environmental mineral ministry. 5, 6, coming home and saying, I know where to throw this paper. I know where to throw this bottle. And they look at adults, they can tell them, Daddy, don't do that. Do you see how on the streets, you are going behind some cars and different things are flying out
from
of the
end
window.
of car windows,
Bottles,
banana spills and what have you.
And you just ask yourself, who is going to pack these things after you? In countries where they've gone beyond that level 3 to higher levels, not even 9, you see people at times.
Ask you, what should be these states who have engaged the private sector? Also, it's also not working.
True.